Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and folks, we just got some massive breaking news. Special Counsel Jack Smith has requested a gag order against Donald Trump in the election interference case against Trump in DC. Now, in recent weeks and months since Donald Trump was indicted for his election interference, especially on January 6th and the days leading up to it, Donald Trump has been attacking everybody involved in the case, whether it be potential witnesses, potential jurors, prosecutors, judges. He's been going after everybody. And, a lot of people, especially like folks on the left, have been like, hey, I think this violates his release conditions and it could possibly hurt the case, taint the jury pool and whatnot. And we've been kind of waiting for action to be taken against Donald Trump because of these attacks. And, well, it seems like Jack Smith agrees, and he's had enough, and he's not messing around, and he's filing a request for a gag order against Donald Trump. So here is the motion that Jack Smith filed in court moments ago to have a narrowly tailored gag order against Donald Trump implemented for his inflammatory and disparaging statements. Jack Smith goes right into it from the get-go, saying, since the grand jury returned an indictment in this case, the defendant has repeatedly and widely disseminated public statements attacking the citizens of the District of Columbia, the court, prosecutors, and prospective witnesses. Through his statements, the defendant threatens to undermine the integrity of these proceedings and prejudice the jury pool in contravention of the undeviating rule that in our justice system, a jury's verdict is to be induced only by evidence and argument and open court and not by outside influence. So yeah, Jack Smith again is just kind of giving us a preview as to what he's going to be arguing here, and it's mainly going to be that, he's intimidating people in the case, he's intimidating members of the District of Columbia, where the case is going to be basically prospective jurors, and because of that, Donald Trump should be restricted in some of the things he can say about this about this case. And then, almost immediately after that, Jack Smith jumps into arguments as to why this narrowly tailored gag order should be implemented, and in Section A, he says, the defendant has a history of inflammatory and misleading statements that he knew or should have known would cause others to harass and harm perceived critics or adversaries. He says the defendant has an established practice of issuing inflammatory public statements targeted at individuals or institutions that present an obstacle or challenge to him. And I think we all know that that's the truth, right? Any person that Donald Trump doesn't like, he'll Truth Social or tweet something out about them and make the most heinous attack you've ever seen in your entire life. And it's not just limited to individuals, it's also institutions. I mean, every single day he attacks the Department of Justice, the justice system, saying it's biased and all this garbage. And Jack Smith even talks about it here. But he has some specific citations of Donald Trump attacking people, attacking institutions, and this is the first citation he provides here, and a lot of it's redacted to protect people's privacy and make sure that they're not getting harassed even more after what Donald Trump did to them. But this is the first example of citation. You can read it here. There's a lot. And here is another example that Jack Smith has included in the filing, and then, as you can see, some footnotes at the bottom. And then here is the last example that Jack Smith includes. And as you can tell, there is a lot of evidence, that Donald Trump frequently harasses people, intimidates people, makes these disparaging statements. And, Jack Smith has the facts. He's bringing it to the table. And, it's pretty compelling. It makes a very good argument as to why Donald Trump should have a gag order against him in place. And then in Section B, Jack Smith makes some more arguments against Donald Trump, and I think you guys are going to like this section a lot. I certainly did. He says, since the indictment, the defendant has deployed misleading and inflammatory statements about this case to undermine confidence in the justice system and prejudice the jury pool. And as you can see, immediately, Jack Smith is citing Donald Trump's Truth Social statement where he said, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. When he said that, people like myself, I'm sure a lot of you, were outraged. I mean, I was furious when he said that. That is so direct against the case. It's so direct against prosecutors, judges, potential witnesses, jurors, and all that stuff. It's so blatantly clear that he was going after these people. I was one who was like, throw his ass in jail right now, drag him back to D.C., put him in the courtroom, because this is a violation of his pretrial agreement, right? So, Jack Smith is obviously keeping a tab on the statements that Donald Trump made, and, this one did not go under his radar. He included it right here, front and center, as the first Truth Social statement he cited. And based on the threats that Donald Trump made, Jack Smith said the defendant has made clear his intent to issue public attacks related to this case when, the day after his arraignment, he posted a threatening message, as you want to see in the beginning, and he says, and he has made good on that threat. Since the indictment in this case, the defendant has spread disparaging and inflammatory public posts on Truth Social on a near daily basis regarding the citizens of the District of Columbia, the court, prosecutors, and prospective witnesses. And that is not the only Truth Social statement that Jack Smith cited. As you can see, there are more down here, of which he attacks the judge directly, saying, in the first statement saying it's an Obama-appointed judge and, there's no way he can get a fair trial with her, just all this typical Trump garbage. And then Jack Smith cites some more on page 8, a variety of statements here, where Trump calls it the Department of Injustice and all this garbage. The typical Trump crazy stuff. But yeah, like Jack Smith is not holding back here. He's including all these statements. And I think that to a degree, Jack Smith waiting to file this gag order makes it stronger because there's just so much evidence, right? Like he's not just using one public statement or one Truth Social statement, which would still be strong, but having multiple in every single category that he's arguing, in my view, makes the argument for a gag order much stronger. Because once you just read all of them, you're like, I mean, this guy has been getting away with murder practically, metaphorically, in this case with the things he's been saying. And then the final argument that Jack Smith makes on this gag order is in section C here. He says the defendant's public posts regarding this case are reasonably likely to prejudice the jury pool. The defendant's relentless public posts marshaling anger and mistrust in the justice system, the court, and prosecutors have already influenced the public. For instance, on August 5th, 2023, an individual was arrested because she called the court's chambers and made racist death threats to the court that were tied to the court's role in presiding over the defendant's case. And that's not the only example, because Smith goes on to say, in addition, the special counsel has been subject to multiple threats, and the specific special counsel's office prosecutor that the defendant has targeted through recent inflammatory public posts has been subject to intimidating communications. And Jack Smith is 100% right here. He goes on to say it is clear that the threats are being prompted by the defendant's repeated and relentless posts. And he's right. He's right. Trump attacks Chutkin. He attacks Jack Smith and then boom, death threats. That's not magic. It doesn't take a rocket science here to figure out what's inspiring these people. It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is inspiring these people. It's not just these folks in D.C., whether, Jack Smith or Tanya Chutkin, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis. All of these people are being targeted by Trump supporters because Trump is attacking them on Truth Social constantly. He's attacking their character and attacking them, saying, they're evil and all these things. It's like, of course, Donald Trump's posts are leading to people making terrible threats towards people and doing all these disgusting things. And, citing these real-world examples, again, I think really strengthen Jack Smith's argument. It's showing that this is not games. We're not playing make-believe here. This is real-world stuff. Threats are actually being made against these people who are just doing their jobs. They're upholding justice, and we have Donald Trump on Truth Social every single day screaming his face off about the new conspiracy theory he comes up with, and he gets to sit in his beautiful Mar-a-Lago mansion in Florida, but he doesn't understand. Well, he actually does understand, but he doesn't, have to deal with the effects of, what he's actually saying. He gets to sit in his mansion and tweet while, Chuck and Jack Smith are getting death threats from people they don't know. It's just so frustrating. It gets me heated here, folks. I apologize. But, Jack Smith is making it clear that, this is not games. We are not playing make-believe. People are actually having their safety threatened here. And then after making his arguments, Jack Smith jumps right into what he thinks the court should do, the request that he's making here today, saying the court should issue an order pursuant to Local Criminal Rule 57.7c that prohibits certain narrowly defined statements. This is pretty much just kind of the gag order he's requesting here. And again, like before, the Trumpies freak out. That's, it's a violation of his First Amendment. It's like, no. He's asking for a very, very narrowly defined gag order here on certain statements and on certain things that Donald Trump has been saying, right? And look, the fact of the matter is, if this was any other regular citizen, if it wasn't Donald Trump, a gag order would have been implemented months ago. It would have been implemented with the first disparaging inflammatory statement. But because it's Donald Trump and because there are more factors to this case than that, I'm sure they've held back for that reason, possibly. But Anyway, it's happening now. I'm glad it's being filed now, which is the main takeaway. And then Jack Smith makes his final request in Section B, saying the court should issue an order that prohibits contacting the citizens of this district to conduct jury studies without first notifying and receiving authorization from the court. He goes on to say at the status hearing on August 28th, 2023, the government raised the issue of jury studies, and the defense suggested they may sooner rather than later conduct outreach to the jury pool to gather information for a potential change of venue. As you folks know, Trump wants to move the case to West Virginia, claiming that it's more diverse there, which is funny. But, the court noted that such polling might affect the same jury pool you're claiming is not fair and might actually affect their ability to render a fair verdict by virtue of the kinds of questions you're asking. So Jack Smith is basically requesting here that the court set forth a process to review efforts by either party, not just Trump or not just Jack Smith, but both parties, to engage in contacts with member of the jury. So yeah, pretty straightforward and pretty logical, right? I mean, these requests make a lot of sense, given, who Donald Trump is and the tactics that we all know he likes to employ. And then finally, in the conclusion, Jack Smith wraps up the argument saying, consistent with its obligation to guard the integrity of these proceedings and prevent prejudice to the jury pool while respecting the defendant's First Amendment rights. That's a very important note he put in there for a reason. The court should enter the proposed orders imposing certain narrow restrictions on the parties' public statements regarding this case and governing any jury studies the parties may undertake. Now, good conclusion, very good filing. I think this was perfectly written by Jack Smith and the Department of Justice. But of course, he's inserting the First Amendment part of that conclusion because, Trump and the MAGA Republicans are going to claim that this is a violation of his First Amendment when in reality it's not. But of course, this also doesn't violate his First Amendment at all. It's just kind of typical court procedure. And it happens all the time. So yeah, we're finally getting a request for a gag order for Donald Trump. Should have happened long ago. I think it should have happened immediately after Donald Trump said, if you come for me, I'm coming for you. I mean, it's as clear as day what he meant there. But it's happening now, and that's what matters. And, Jack Smith is not one to mess around. I'm sure that there was some intention to waiting, maybe to, present such a strong argument that he did today, to have all of that evidence in one place, which just strengthens his argument overall. And once again, this just further proves that Jack Smith is not here to mess around. He's not dilly-dallying. He's not like looking up at the stars and the beautiful clouds. It's like, no, he's very focused on this case here and pursuing justice, as Jack Smith has a reputation to do. So anyway, folks, that's going to wrap up the video for today. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and definitely comment on this one, and let me know what you think about this protective order. I'm really interested to hear what people think, whether you think it's justified or unjustified, and maybe why, or if you think I'm wrong and you're right, I would love to hear that too. So anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you genuinely, and that's going to be the video for now. All right, folks, I'll talk to you soon.